Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Fran, and I will be your MC for today. I would like to welcome everyone to the ASE Webinar Series 7, brought to you by the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week 2021, or ASE, the ASEAN largest international conference and exhibitions on the renewable energy, energy efficiency, environmental, and electric vehicle technologies. This event will be held on 14 to 16 of October this year in Bangkok, Thailand, at Bangkok. So today's topic will be discussed about the potential of district cooling in Thailand. As the economic here keep expanding each day, how great is that if we have these technologies to help reduce the energy consumption in your business? In this webinar, we bring together the expert and from the government agency, from the leading company, and from the associations who are so ready to share with you about the policy, knowledge, and also market potentials that fit with the humidity environment in Thailand. So before we start, I would like to have a special thanks to the Asia Pacific Urban Energy Associations who coordinates this webinar and also prepare such a rich content for today. And next, I would like to have the quickly mention on the webinar's housekeeping rules. First, all microphones and all the video of the attendees have been muted. If you wish to ask any questions to our speaker, please leave the questions at the Q&A box below. And I would suggest you to mention to our speaker name before you write down the question. In case of any internet issue or technical issue during the webinar, we have another channel for you, which is our Facebook fan page, the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week, which is all live, and you can share this webinar to your connection easily. So now let me pass this stage to our moderator, who have extensive experience on the district heating, district cooling, and energy efficiency. Here is Mr. Peter Lundberg, Head of Operations at Asia Pacific Urban Energy Associations. Good afternoon, Mr. Peter. Please have this stage.
Thank you very much, Pran. I will just start to share my screen. Hello, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining our webinar today on the topic of the potential district cooling in Thailand. So as Pran mentioned here, this webinar is number 7 in a webinar series leading up to the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week, 14th and 16th of October. So my name is Peter Lundberg, and I'm the Head of Operations at the Bangkok-based Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association, and I will be the moderator of this session today. And before we start, I would like to thank our session partner, Informa Market, for creating this event on a topic that is gathering more and more interest in Thailand and also in the Southeast Asia and ASEAN region. So, and the purpose of this session is to give an introduction to development and potential of district cooling systems in Thailand. So I will start the session by giving a quick introduction and setting the scene. Then we will move on to the speakers. First, we will have a presentation from Dr. Pongpan Vorasayan from the Ministry of Energy, who will introduce district cooling in Thailand. Then we move on to Kamal Tam Pipak from EECDT Green Power, who will share a case study on the district cooling development at the Forestias project. We will then have Michael Jacobson from the Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association and the Nexity, who will share international experience for the district cooling market in Thailand. And we will then have a Q&A session, as Pran mentioned. So I would start to share that cooling produces about 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. And out of that 10%, about 80% comes from the use of energy. And another 20% is emissions from refrigerants. And if you can see in the graph here shows the electricity consumption of air-conditioned systems in residential buildings and commercial buildings by country and region. And you can see here that there has been a significant growth since the 90s to until today, especially in China, but also in Southeast Asia and Korea and India. So the increasing cooling demand is driven by economic and population growth in the hottest part of the world. And as you can see here, Thailand is located in a part of the world who has one of the highest hottest climates in the world, and therefore have a very high cooling demand. And so the cooling demand is also, of course, increasing due to climate change and global warming. So if you look at this graph showing number of cooling degree days, which basically is a measurement of the cooling demand, or let's say the climate. And Thailand has about 4,000 cooling degree days. And this is similar to Singapore and Malaysia. But Thailand has only ASE utilization rate about 30%. And whereas Singapore and Malaysia has about 80% ASE utilization rate. So there's a gap here that is actually potential, and there will be a growth of the cooling demand in Thailand to get closer to those levels as Singapore and Malaysia. It's also interesting to see countries as China, Japan, for example, who has much less cooling days, but the utilization rates are much higher than Thailand. So there's definitely a potential for district cooling in Thailand. So these are showing some ongoing trends that we can follow that it relates to the cooling demand. On the left-hand side, we have the number of cooling degree days, and you can see here that it's growing over time, and that's due to climate change and global warming. It's getting hotter. And also we can see the middle graph shows GDP per capita, and the growth of GDP per capita in ASEAN is growing strongly. And also that results in a significant growth in ACE, air-conditioned ownerships. Basically, demand for cooling is growing a lot in the ASEAN region. There's one more trend to follow. That is the urbanization trend. So today there are about 60% lives in cities in the world, and about 75% of the world's energy is consumed in cities. And this number is expected to reach 68% in 2050. And cities leads to people moving to cities leads to a higher population density, but also leads to a higher energy density. So there is that favors centralized solutions like energy district cooling. And if you look at the number of cities with a population of 10 million or more, there are 33 in the world today, and 17 of those are in Asia Pacific. And in 2030, there will be 25 cities with a population of 10 million or more in the Asia Pacific region. So this is definitely a hotspot when it comes to the urbanization trend as well. Just some quick benefit on district cooling systems. They can be up to 50% more efficient than conventional cooling systems. They allow to install about 15% less capacity than individual cooling systems. The district cooling allows for integration of renewable sources, including renewable electricity, waste energy, or natural coal sources. Using thermal energy storages, you can enables the potential to reduce peak loads. District cooling can also play a role to mitigate global warming with up to 1 degree Celsius due to its high efficiency, but also to reducing and phasing out HFC refrigerants. It leads to reduced heat urban island effect and has a lifespan up to 50 years. There's a huge market potential, and not at least for central business district areas, industry zones, airports, hospitals, etc. But that I'm sure the speakers will talk more about the potential of district cooling in Thailand. I just want to highlight the #1 district energy event in Asia this year will be the 7th Global District Energy Climate Awards that will be held during the Asia Urban Energy Assembly, 11 to 12 November in Bangkok. It will be a high-level international event to highlight district energy and district cooling in this part of the world. So we'll very much look forward to welcome you all to visit this event in November, and please contact us, visit our website or contact us if you have any questions about this event. Okay, thank you. That's all for me. I think we'll move on to the next speaker. And our first speaker today is Dr. Pongpan Borasayan, who is a senior professional electrical engineer at the Division of Energy Regulation and Conservation at the Department of Alternative Energy Development and Efficiency at the Ministry of Energy in the Royal Thai government. Dr. Pongpan has expertise in energy conservation, especially regarding policies, implementation, energy efficiency, financial support program, and was involved in the establishment of the recent energy efficiency plan. Dr. Pongpan's presentation includes an introduction to district cooling in Thailand, as well as insights in Thailand's current energy situation and future energy goals. Welcome, Dr. Pongpan. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for your kind introductions. One moment, I share my PowerPoint presentations. Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Pongpan Borasayan. I'm working at Department of Alternative Energy Development and Efficiencies under the Ministry of Energy. My work especially focusing on the enforcement of energy conservation law and regulations for distributed building and factories, or large building and factory in Thailand, which is we have about 9,000 of them. So for today, my presentation will be I'll give you an idea of the energy mix in Thailand, in Thailand, and then also some energy efficiency plan, and also the district cooling site in Thailand, which we have about 6 or 7 of them at the moment being developed. Okay, next. Talking about energy situation in Thailand, Thailand has a final energy consumption about 85,000 KTOE per year, and they come from renewable energies, both renewable, conventional and or traditional and traditional renewable energy and renewable energy combined together about 16%. The rest, 84%, come from commercial energies, which consisting of petroleum products, coal, lignite, electricity, natural gas. You can see that for the commercial energies, petroleum product take account about 60% from 72,000 KTOE of commercial product. So we using a mixture of fossil fuel and also renewable energies. If we look at it by sectors, we have 5 main sectors, which are transportation, industrial, residential, commercial, and agricultural. You can see that the transportation and industrial cover more than 70% of the total energy consumption in Thailand, so which is about 33,000 KTOE for transportation and 31,000 KTOE for industry. And the rest is residential, commercial buildings, and agricultural. In Thailand, we have, we call it Thailand Integrated Energy Blueprint, which is energy plans. We have 5 main plans, which are Power Development Plan or PDP, Energy Efficiency Plan or EEP, Alternative Energy Development Plan or AEDP, and Gas Plan and Oil Plan. The current plan is published in 2018. We are currently revise the plan, which we will put together all of the plan in one energy plan, national energy plans. So we combine these 5 plans together, and each plan will link it together. We expect that the new plan will be in use in 2022. The target of the current plan is to reduce energy intensity by 30%. Energy intensity or EI, we expect we target to reduce by 30% within about 20 years time, which is within year 2037, with the base year of 2010. We have 3 main strategies, which are compulsory measures, promotion measures, and complementary measures, focusing on 5 economic sectors: industry, buildings, household, agriculture, and transport. For the compulsory one, we have energy management standard. We have energy code for industrial, for buildings, and for residential. And we also have energy efficiency resource standard. For the promotion side, we have equipment standard and labelings. We have financial support, including grant, subsidy, tax incentive, soft loan. We also have innovations. We support the promotion use of innovation in energy efficiency, like we use IoT, we use smart buildings, we use big data. We also have energy efficiency in agricultural sector and transport sector in promotional strategies. While the complementary side, we have 3 main one, including human resource development, public relations and awareness, and also the research and development. So this is the strategy and the measure under the energy plan of Thailand. Focusing on one topic, which is building energy code. We implement and enforce building energy code for some time. Those 9 building type has to comply with building energy code, including hospital, educational, offices, condominium, conventional hall, entertainment complex, hotel, theater, and department store. So these 9 type of building, if they have total floor area more than 2,000 square meter, they must comply with the building energy code, where they have to design the building in the way that it is energy efficient within the standard. The criteria including 6 of them, including building envelopes, lighting system, air conditioning system, water heating system, renewable energy, and total energy consumption. Each of them has the number, has the value of the standard. So they need to design to comply with the building energy code. The building energy code, we will fully enforce within this year, starting by building with the 10,000 square meter first, and then the year later 5,000, and then the year later is 2,000 square meters. We also have study and promote the construction of high efficient building, or leading to zero energy building also. Looking at the demand, electricity demand in the regions, as Peter already mentioned in his PowerPoint, that the cooling demand is growing, is increasing. So both residential and those from office, they are if we use the high efficiency equipment like high efficient air conditioning or even district cooling, so we will help to do energy efficient in these cooling sectors. From the graph, you can see that the number of air conditioner in the ASEAN could increase by the factor of 10 in 2050s. Residential air condition could also increase by 40%, a factor of 14. And almost half of the air conditioning system in 2050 is in Indonesia, because as you can see from the Peter PowerPoint, that the rate of use of the AC in Indonesia is lower than Thailand, is lower. So this is a potential where we can use energy efficient cooling. Yes, that the graph say that saving in ASEAN electricity consumption for space cooling with efficient AC and buildings measure, we can save up to 350 terawatt hour per year by 2050. This is a study from IEA. Apart from reducing energy, it's also reduce the carbon emission, the greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, this is I'm gonna give you the overview of the district cooling plant in Thailand. Some already in operations, some in the plannings, or some are under constructions. So there are a number of benefits from district cooling. As some Peter already mentions. So we have, I will show you about seven sites, which is mainly in Bangkok, metropolitan areas. The green is in operations. The red is under construction or being planned. The first one is the district cooling site. We call it district cooling system and power plant, or DCAP, which supply electricity, chill water, and steam to the area of Suvarnabhumi Airport, where they use a combined cycle, a cogeneration. Sorry, they use a cogeneration to produce electricity, steam, and chill water. They use natural gas as the energy from their customer, including Airport Authority of Thailand or Suvarnabhumi Airport, ESCAP, Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand, TG Thai Airways Caterings, and hotels near the Suvarnabhumi Airport, and also the State Railway Authority of Thailand, which is I think Suvarnabhumi Airport link stations. This number this number is maybe the typical number from when they normally use, but currently may be different because of COVID situations. This is one of the very first district cooling plant in Thailand. The next one is government complex, Jaangwattana, Bangkok. Is the office buildings a large office building with the gross floor area of 975,000 square meters. It is the government complex commemorating His Majesty the King 80th birthday anniversary. The area about 349 hectares. The building was designed in a way that it is highly insulated building envelopes and has been employed to withstand the heat and humidities and allow minimal infiltration of outside air. The multi-layer roof consists of high reflectance volume material, a steel structure, and 6 inches thick insulator. Incline wall. By leaning outward, the sunlight exposed surface on the wall are minimized, and heat transfer into the building is 8 times lower than that of perpendicular wall. So that is one of the things, the building design where they can reduce the energy consumption in the cooling load. So for they also use the cogenerations, generate chill water electricity using natural gas. 4.7 megawatt gas turbine, 2 of them, absorption chiller and electric chillers. So the third one is the hospital, where is Sirira Yamaha Hospital. It is located in Bangkok on the west bank of Chao Phraya River. It is a 14-story buildings and gross floor area of 238,000 square meter with the cooling capacity of 6,000 refrigerant tons. So this is already in operations. The fourth one is a building of the commercial bank. We call it Kasikorn Bank. It's the head office at Ratchaburana area in Bangkok. There are 1 main buildings next to the main bridge, Ramadhanai Bridge, and also we have some smaller buildings. So they also use the district cooling with they have the gross floor area of 163,000 square meter and with the cooling capacity of 4,000 refrigerant tons. So this number 5 and number 6 project is under development. The number 5 is a forest sphere. It's a mixed-use complex where it has an office, hotel, condominium, residential area, hospital, retail, gross floor area of 750 square meter and cooling capacity of 10,000 refrigerant ton. Kun Kamal will provide more detail on this project later. Then the number 6, it is the One Bangkok. It's also a mixed-use complex located at Ramapho Road near Lumpini Park. It is a private sector property development, 16.7 hectares. It is scheduled to open in 2023. The district cooling center and power distribution system will be run by a joint venture company of Bangkok Smart Energy under Gulf Energy Development and Mitsui and Tokyo Gas Energy Solution Corporations, a 30-year contract worth 3.57 billion baht. It will provide chill water and electricity with the installed capacity of 36,000 to 38,000 tons refrigerant and 240 megawatt electricity. Consisting of 16 buildings, mixed-use district, consisting of 5 office tower, 3 residential tower, 5 hotel, retail, and cultural and public space. The district cooling was designed in a way that it will provide accurate demand forecast based on weather forecast for the next day and past demand analysis. Number 7 is we call it Chula or CU Smart City, located at Samyan commercial area near Chulalongkorn University. It is also the mixed-use complex consisting of hotel, office, condominiums, hospital, retail, and residential. The electricity and cooling or chilled water will be supplied by a consortium consisting of BCPG Public Company, Singapore Keppel, DHCS, Team Consulting Engineering and Management Public Company. This was the project was under property management of Chulalongkorn University or PMCU. The consortium is to design, build, operate, and transfer the district cooling plant. The Keppel DHCS will lead the operation and maintenance for district cooling plant for 20 years. And the gross floor area is 842,000 square meter with the cooling capacity of 18,000 refrigerant tons. That's 7 examples of district cooling plant in Thailand in operation and under development. There are also area that we can develop district cooling, or district cooling can be benefit for them. For example, Makasan complex, which is the under SRT State Railway, which will be a complex or train stations. Commercial complex at Utapao International Airport, Chonburi. Transit-oriented development along high-speed train routings. Also, large-scale mixed-use complex, private development, large-scale hospital, or smart city area, which is district cooling system is one of the significant components in smart energy criteria. So these there are a potential area in Thailand that can apply district cooling. From what I see from the a mega project like CU Smart City at One Bangkok, they use the joint venture concept, where it is consisting of district cooling system technology holders. In this case, for example, Keppel for CU Smart City, or Tokyo Gas and Mitsui for One Bangkok. They also have energy-related company, which are DCPG and Gulf Energy. They may have local consultants, which in this case, CU Smart City is Team Consulting. They may also have some owner subsidiary company in the joint venture also. So I would say that the mega project, a big project for district cooling, they use a joint venture concept consisting of technology owner, energy related company, and local consultants to supply chilled water and electricity with the long-term contract, build, own, operate, and or transfer. And with the district cooling, we can use the load sharing of each type of load profile in different different load profile of each type of building use to make it more efficient. Yeah, I think that's about introduction of district cooling in Thailand. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pompan, for that your presentation and for sharing the introducing about district cooling in Thailand, but also sharing insights on regulation on energy efficiency, building energy codes, some examples, some projects that are developed and under development, and also potential areas to develop more. I think it's interesting also to learn about the project constellations that seems to be the joint venture projects are favorable when it comes to developing district cooling projects. All right, thank you, Dr. Pongpan. We're going to move on to our second speaker, who is Mr. Kamal Tam Pipak, who is the Chief Executive Officer at ASE DT Green Power. Kamal has more than 20 years experience in managing energy projects in Thailand. He has direct experience in implementing energy conservation and renewable energy projects for major industrial and commercial sectors in Thailand. Currently, he is the CEO of EEC DT Green Power, a joint venture company of DTGO Group and EEC Group, providing utility services for large mixed-use complexes and smart city developments. Kamal will give an introduction to the ongoing district cooling project at the Forestias development. Welcome, Kamal. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Khun Peter, for the introduction, and also thank you to Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association and Informa Market to invite me to share the information regarding the Forestier project district cooling here for today. For today, I prepare to share some information regarding the district cooling at the Forestier, covering four topics. The first one, allow me to spend a few minutes to introduce you to the project, which is the Forestier, then talking to the central utility plant, which is where district cooling system being located and installed in the plant. And the last one is the potential saving and also how DCS can contribute to the GHG emission reduction. The Forestier project is the mixed-use complex located in the east side of the Bangkok on the way to the EEC, which is the Eastern Economic Corridor. It's around Kilo 6 of the Bang Trat Road. The Forestier is consisting of two parts, which is the commercial zone and residential zone. The commercial zone is next to the road, and the residential zone is get back a little bit from the road. In the project itself has been designed in such a way that all the cooling system or other related utility system being provide and support to the project at the central utility plant or the CUPs of the building itself. The total areas of the Forestier is around 300 right. At the central utility plant, the central utility plant is located in the commercial zone, which is where the cooling load or most of the cooling demand is there. And then from the central utility plant, the chill waters will be supplied to both parts, which is the commercial zone on the north part, and supplied to the residential zone on the part next to the commercial zone through the distributed network located in the underground utility tunnels of the main road inside the project itself. Inside the CUP or central utility plant buildings, the majorities or the main services of the building is for district cooling system, which we has been designed for the full capacities of the district cooling to be installed here at 20,000 refrigeration ton, divided into two phases. The first phase will be ready to supply in 2022 with the capacity of 10,000 tons. You will see in here that this is the 6 stories of the buildings. The chillers, which is the main machine for the district cooling plant, has been installed in 2 stories. One is 10,000 each. In the system of the district cooling here, we also have the thermal energy storage tank, which is a chilled water tank. The capacity of the tank is 20,000 refrigeration ton hours. The purpose of the tank is, first of all, is to reduce the peak demand. And the second and quite important functions of this TES is also to manage the operations of the chillers to get the maximum efficiencies of the system itself. Inside the CUP building, not just only the place where the DCS being installed, we also have other functions to support the utility system of the forestier project itself, like the smart control room, the fire protections system for the public area inside the forestier, the waters and also the wastewater system being also be located inside the central utility plant. That is the central utility plant where the district cooling system has been installed. Getting a bit into more detail of the district cooling system at the forestier. The forestier has been choose or decide to go for district cooling system because there are a lot of benefit, not just only to the customer, because on the customer will sure the DCS, because of the better energy efficiency, they will pay less in terms of the energy cost on their cooling system. The DCS also will benefit to the infrastructure in terms of the reduce of the install capacity, because in the DCS we can share the cooling load in the nighttime and the daytime between different users. Like in the nighttime, the cooling be supplied to the residential with the same install capacity. In the daytime, we can use that to supply to the commercial zone. Without DCS, the amounts of or the size of the install capacity might got to be almost double. And it's also be benefit to the environment because the energy efficiency side, and also because of the less use of the refrigerant, which will affect a lot to the GHG emission. Also help very much on the urban heat islands. You can imagine that when we put the DCS system into the project, it means that we cannot avoid all the compressor to install inside each unit of the condominium or the residential, because the compressor unit will have to reject a lot of heat out in order to cool the space cooling inside the user area. They also have a lot of other benefits getting from the DCS. First of all, when we use the DCS, it means that, as I mentioned, we can get rid of all the condensing unit, which normally will have to be installed at the balconies of the unit itself, and we cannot use that. When the balcony is quite clear, it means that it's low noise, no heat reject from the condenser unit itself, and the user doesn't have to maintenance the condenser unit. It means that low service and low maintenance requirements. And because of the efficiencies of the DCS itself, we can lower the energies and also the maintenance costs. And another fantastic thing that we can get out of the DCS is the when we separated the cooling unit out from the room or out from the building itself, it means that the cooling will be able to supply to the unit, even though the power it have the power outlet to the building. But this in the sense that your fan core unit or the fan inside the room got to connect to the emergency power supply side, and contributed to the a lot of benefit to the global environment size, because we use less on the refrigerant. It means no ozone depletion and can help also the global warming issues. The system that we put in the forestier projects I mentioned already on the district cooling plan, which the total capacity is of the 20,000 tons in total. The cooling will be distributed to all the user or all the building through the chill water distributed pipe, which is installed in the underground utility tunnel, and go to the building. When we go to the building, the cooling will be transferred through the ETS, which is the energy transfer stations, and the cooling that transfer through the ETS will transfer to the chill water system inside the building itself to send the cooling to cool down, the spread cooling in all units. So this is the system that we design for the forestier, which is EEC DT Green Power, is responsible for development the whole system for the forestier, and also will be the one who operate the system for the forestier projects. This is showing the distribution network. This is the layouts of the forestier itself. On the upper part is the commercial zone. The CUP is installed here. And the way we distributed the chill water to each development, as I mentioned, we distributed to the distributed network, which installed in the underground utility tunnel. This is designing, this is the work under construction, and this picture shows the complete installation. The big pipe, this is a chill water pipe installed inside the underground utility tunnel. In the utility tunnel has been designed not just only for the distributed network of the chill water, it's also be for other utility system. You will see the red pipe. The red pipe is for the fire protection for the public areas of the forestier project itself. And the size of this tunnel is quite wide. You see far away, this is the people working to survey the pipe. The size, this is around 6 meters and around 4 to 5 meter high. It has been located at the ring or the main utility tunnels of the forestier project itself. This is the distributed network which has been provided for the forestier project itself. Allow me to touch a bit upon the benefit in terms of the figure that we're getting out from implementing the DCS system for a forestier project itself. As I mentioned, there are a lot of benefit, and one of it is the infrastructure things, is the install capacity. For the install capacity itself, we used to calculate that by using the conventional air conditioning system for the project itself. It might need to install up to 22,000 refrigerant tons. But because of the load sharing, the install capacity using the DCS can be down to 20,000 tons, which is the size of the forestier project itself. In terms of the energy consumptions and the GHG emission, because of the performance of the DCS system, it's a lot better than the conventional things. So we can also enjoy the price of the cooling that sell to the user. So the user will pay less in terms compared to the electricity that they got to pay by themselves by using the conventional air conditioning system. And because of the efficiency itself, the overall energy consumption is lower. So it means that we can reduce the GHG emission. Another benefit to the environmental, because as I mentioned earlier, that we also can reduce the amounts of defectulant because of, you will see the install capacity. If we got to install conventional type 20,000 ton, and conventional types of the air conditioning use a lot of refrigerant. So that would, if we convert that into ton of CO2 emissions of the conventional types, might got to got the figure around 26,000 ton. But compared to the DCS, within this one we use 134A, we need around 24 kilogram of the refrigerant. So the refrigerant itself can contribute a lot to the environment without 28,000 ton. We as I mentioned that because of implementing the DCS, we also benefit to the expenses of the users. We do some calculation in terms of the comparison of the expenses between DCS and also the conventional type. The blue line is represent the expenses of the energies and also the maintenance costs for the conventional types. Okay, it will be here. And on the orange line, it represents the expense and occur when we implemented the DCS system. So based on this one, the summary is in terms of the energy size, we can save the energies, mean the expenses in terms of the energy side by 5 to 8%. It depends on the size and the operating hours of the each unit in residentials. But if we also include the expenses in terms of the maintenance costs, combined together with the energy saving costs, we come up with the figure that the expenses, the total expenses, energies and maintenance costs can be reduced by up to 20%. So this is the direct benefit that the user can get when we implemented the DCS system to the project itself. So the district cooling system, as I mentioned, it have a lot of benefit, not just only to the developer, also to the user, and also good to the environment issue as well. Because of energy efficiency, space requirement, operating cost, liability, flexibility, maintainability, and also sustainability. We can get this to the load sharing of the DCS, the high performance of the DCS itself. We can reduce the peak demand, and this concept can be utilized together with the concept of the central utility plan. Okay. So this is the summary, and this is one of another pictures that we do simulation. This will be the real plan that we are going to build. This one is now under construction. The utility tunnels in the forestry has already been completed, as I showed in the previous slide. This building it start construction and will be completed next year, 17 months from now. And the COD for the chill waters will be sometime around the end of next year. Okay, hope this information might help or useful a bit for all participation for today. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal, for the very interesting presentation about the Foresters project. Very, very interesting. And then I think you share many benefits why district cooling was chosen for this kind of project. So, and maybe for the audience, maybe it's possible to visit the site or the project in the future.
I think we have a lot of potential. Just see the situation when we organize the trip, whether the site is around and what would be the situation at the time. But it's quite positive. Would like to also welcome the people to visit our site, because one of the objectives that we build the central utility plan, not just only to serve the project, we also to develop some of the space to be the learning center for the people to visit and learn how to develop the central utility plan and also the district cooling system.
That's great. I will for sure come and visit.
Yep. Very welcome.
Thank you, Kamal. Yes, we're going to move on to the next speaker. Our third speaker today is Mr. Michael Jacobson, who is the Executive Director at the Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association, and also the Managing Director at Nexity. Michael has more than 15 years experience within energy management and energy engineering, and he has specialist knowledge in planning of renewable energy integrated urban energy systems and hydraulic analysis of complex thermal energy systems. He has in the past 10 years developed and executed about 60 urban energy projects in East Asia, and now led by the Swedish company Nexity. Michael's presentation, international experience for the district cooling market in Thailand, will give insights on district cooling projects and best practices from different parts of the Asia Pacific region. Welcome, Michael. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Peter. I will try to share my screen here. There we go. Can you see it well?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, Peter, and thank you for having me, and thanks for the Informa Markets to host this event. I will provide some insights in district cooling development internationally and what we have seen that is related to the district cooling market in Thailand. So what is district cooling? Well, how we define district cooling is that it is a centralized cooling system for multiple buildings where we achieve scale advantages compared to individual cooling technologies. We heard some from Mr. Kamal here before. We heard also from Pong Pan many of the benefits achieved from the district cooling systems. So this is how we are defining district cooling, not just centralized cooling system for a single building. What we have seen also in the previous presentations here today are that many of the projects are greenfield projects naturally, and I will come back to that. However, there is also possibilities for brownfield projects and to convert existing centralized cooling systems for buildings into district cooling networks. The history of district cooling, actually the first district cooling system was developed in North America in 1962. So it has more than 50 years, almost 60 years history, the development of district cooling. It was first developed in Hartford in Connecticut. And in Europe, the first district cooling project was put into operation in 1967 in Paris, and it was actually combined cooling and heating systems for the La Défense commercial district. If we look at North America, there are 400 district cooling systems in operation today approximately, and in Europe about 150 district cooling systems in operation. In Asia Pacific, the first district cooling system was put into operation in Osaka in 1970. And this was just like in Paris, also a combined heating and cooling system. This means that there are parallel systems, so they are providing both heating and cooling, but in separate pipeline systems. In Southeast Asia, there is about 35 district cooling systems in operation today, and There are 10 district cooling systems that are under development that will soon be put into operation. And there are plenty of district cooling systems that are under planning phase. If we zoom down to ASEAN, we have an overview here about the different district cooling markets. So the most mature market, if we weight it to the country's GDP, is Singapore, followed by Malaysia, and Thailand is the third largest district cooling market. If we look at the DCS capacity, or the district cooling capacity, and include the ones under development, we see that there is still a lot of development going on in Singapore, as well in Malaysia, but Thailand is really catching up. So Thailand will definitely take this third position and develop the district cooling systems dramatically in the coming years. I will go into more about the future developments, and we heard also from Dr. Pongpan about the obvious projects that most likely will benefit from district cooling systems. If we look at the countries like Vietnam, for example, where there are no district cooling systems today. However, due to the national cooling action plans that are put in place, it's very likely to believe that district cooling systems will be developed quite a lot in Vietnam as well in the coming years. And this is not least due to the relatively mature planning practices that are in Vietnam, the urban planning practices. Today, district cooling is mentioned as one technology for energy efficient cooling, but also as a not-in-kind solution for HFC refrigerant phase out. If we look at Indonesia today and Myanmar, Indonesia first, there are no district cooling projects at the moment. However, the economy is big and the economy is growing, and it's also likely that the district cooling will start to kick off there also within a 5-year period or so. Even though Myanmar is a bit less developed compared to Thailand and Malaysia and Singapore and so on, there is one district cooling project in operation today in Yangon. In Philippines, there is one district cooling project under development, and it's also there likely to see a few more developments in the future. So this provides an overview over ASEAN and the district cooling developments that are in the region. Like Peter mentioned before, the air conditioning utilization, which to some extent, or I would say to a large extent, is related to the economy of the country. In Singapore and Malaysia, where air conditioning utilization is about 80%, while Thailand is 30%, is pretty much in line with the position they have as mature district cooling markets. Singapore is the only regulated district cooling market with the District Cooling Act, which is regulating the sector. So here the government has a quite active role in supporting the district cooling development. When we talk about district cooling, we heard from Pongpan before about, for example, the Suvarnabhumi airport, which is a district cooling project that is part of a Trian project, or a combined cooling, heating, and power project. So district cooling is often part of other energy systems. I mentioned before about the system in Paris, but also most of the systems in Japan, for example, also China, are combined heating and cooling systems. Nowadays, we are looking into more sophisticated integration of energy systems in multi-energy systems, where district cooling also plays an important role in integrating heating, cooling, power, gas, and different kind of storage system. Also in industrial and this energy symbiosis projects, district cooling could have a role. This is not least if we look at Thailand, we have the industrial parks along the Eastern Economic Corridor in Chonburi, in Rayong, and so on, is definitely some areas where it also could be possible with district cooling. And as also today mentioned already, that district cooling is a natural component of the smart cities and the smart energy city concepts. So where we have smart city developments, district cooling plays a very natural role here. The benefits with district cooling, I think we have mentioned most of them. There are financial and economical benefits, there are environmental benefits, and the benefits of energy efficiency. I will not go into these. I think we have mentioned all of them. I think it's important to mention that these kind of systems, as we saw the great example here from Mr. Kamal about the Forestia's development, that these kind of projects are developed by very competent people. That means also that it will be competent people that is operating these systems, which provide greater energy efficiency. It will provide longer lifespan, and it will reduce the O&M cost during its life cycle. Other benefits we also touch upon a little bit. We get rid of these compressors, all these split units that are all over the walls of the buildings or on the top of the roofs, which by being removed provides more architectural freedom, and we are freeing up space. It's also important to say that one of the arguments for not developing district cooling systems are that we need some place to put the chiller plant and the cooling storage. However, we will free up a lot of space in the buildings by removing the centralized chiller stations and the cooling towers and so on. So if you look at the full plot that we are developing, it's definitely a reduction of space utilization or increase of available space. So these are other additional benefits. There are, however, challenges also developing district cooling systems. We have front-loaded investment. We have to invest in the chiller plant to quite some extent in the beginning, even though all is not necessary to invest in the beginning of the project. But for the pipeline network, obvious reasons, will be in early stage, if not a lot. Look at other things that are challenges for us to develop the cooling system are that is still a lack of awareness of the benefits. That's why we have this session today, to increase the awareness. There are also lack of specialists in the field. As we saw before, there are 400 systems in North America. There are a couple of hundred in Europe. Middle East is probably the biggest market today in terms of capacity, district cooling capacity. Also, we saw in China, Japan is big, but in Southeast Asia is still limited, except from Singapore and Malaysia. So here we have to also support. In APUEA, we have just launched the APUEA Academy, which is developed to actually mitigate these problems and train both the I would say government agencies, but also labor workers to be more skillful in the field. Should also mention that there are skepticism to some extent in regards to district cooling. There has been projects that have not been developed too well in the past. However, there are also good examples that is better to gain experiences from. So we try to work very hard to promote the good cases and avoid the challenges that has been with less successful cases in the region. There are lack of regulatory frameworks which would slow down the public type of district cooling projects. Many of these projects that we're looking at are to some extent private district cooling projects. But the public district cooling project where the municipality is involved and so on would benefit from regulatory framework to work with. I think we mentioned many of the opportunities about the huge market, the smart cities and so on, so I will not stop at that. Where district cooling is most feasible, where it's pretty much says itself where it is the high cooling demand. And the high cooling demand density and high utilization of cooling. So typically airports, commercial clusters, hotel clusters, CBD areas, and TOD areas, and so on. These are typical developments where district cooling most often has a perfect fit to the extent necessary. I will come back to what I mean with that when it comes to scale. Just to mention the Eastern Economic Corridor in Thailand. Eastern Economic Corridor itself provides a number of projects. Dr. Pongpan was touching upon it. We have the TOD areas in Makassar and Sriracha. We have the airport city at Utapao International Airport. The airport itself, which will be both renovated and expanded. We have a digital park in Sriracha and a medical hub at Bang Lamung. These are just a few of the projects that will be perfect for district cooling to some extent. But also what we have not mentioned here with this massive development is all other types of projects that would be commercial buildings, shopping complexes, hotel clusters, and so on and so forth. There will be a lot of potential here in the Eastern Economic Corridor for district cooling development. Finally, as Peter mentioned, beside of the pro bono role I have in Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association, I'm also the CEO of Nexity, who is developing and optimizing district cooling systems across Asia Pacific. What we often face are that there are often proposed gigantic district cooling systems, citywide district cooling systems, similar to district heating systems. And this is not suitable most often for district cooling. The argument often said, the bigger the better, is not the case when it comes to district cooling. What is very important is the cooling demand density when it comes to developing these projects. So it's more feasible to develop several smaller hubs. When I say smaller in an international context, the smaller hubs in Southeast Asia are still huge district cooling systems, as the ones we got presented today for Restias. It is a big district cooling project. We also want to emphasize that district cooling is not a large HVAC system. It could look like that, and when we look at it on a sketch drawing or something like that, it could look like that. However, it is a big system integrated to other energy systems, the electricity grid, which we can benefit from as well to increase utilization of renewable energies, to reduce peak demands in the electricity systems, and so on. This, in combination with that we have system dynamics, it takes time for the water to transport in the system. We have cooling losses or what we should call it, heat losses in the system. And district cooling could be a business as well. It's very important to remember this. So it's much more than just a HVAC system. What is moving to the right there is a simulation of a pump trip in one of the famous district cooling systems in the world, where the pressure goes down to close to vapor pressure. This we see a lot unsafe system designs, which can result in water, even though it's cold water. It is evaporating, it turns into steam, it's moving around in the network, suddenly get pressurized, and we will have a pressure peak that eventually could result in exploded pipes or damaged equipment. This is something that we are seeing a lot and something that we provide a lot, these what we say seamless hydraulic steady state, hydraulic transient state, and thermal analysis of district cooling system. It's very important and more important than in just a normal HVAC system. Like I mentioned about the business, district cooling being a business, what we try to convince the developers, no matter if it is real estate developers or industrial park developers and so on, there is always, or most often, let's say, an opportunity to carve out the district cooling utility and create an additional business. This can create new revenue streams and simply be a standalone business for the development, something that is definitely an opportunity. We also face often that there are lack of business project management competences. Like I said, this is a system that is more complex than a traditional power generation project with a PPA contract. This is systems where the load will increase over time, the area will develop over time, there will be different need of different competences in different parts of the projects and so on. So it requires a certain knowledge to develop and implement and then operate these kind of projects. However, like we have seen here today, there are great examples. So it's not all over the place. It's just that we see it relatively often. With that said, I think I will hand over to Peter. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Michael, for providing insights on the international or regional experiences, district cooling, and also providing benefits, challenges, and opportunities with district cooling systems, and also sharing all the great work you have done with the next city as well. So I think we are moving on to the Q&A session, and we have got quite a lot of questions already. So we will try to answer as many as possible, but I see that the time is running away from us. So we will try to basically answer as many as possible here. So I think we get going here, and I would like to open up with a question here related to the theme or the title of the session. So, and this question I would like to first address to Kamal is, so in your opinion, what do you think is the potential and what are the areas most suitable to develop district cooling projects in Thailand?
Yes, thank you for the question, Peter. I think, as I mentioned, and most of the speaker all the speaker also mentioned that the mixed use complex, which have different types of the demand, load, or varieties of time required. Like we have the residential in mixing with the commercial, would be the main potential or the big potential for DCS, you know. But if we don't have the mixed use, the commercial zone whereby they have the constant cooling load is also one of the opportunity to implement the DCS. The challenging one is the individual residential things, you know. For that part, it will be a bit challenging, but based on the technology now, if we properly design the system, I think the individual building itself might also be an opportunity. So I would say that in priority, the mixed use and the commercial area whereby the large amount of cooling load for maybe more than 15 or 20 hours, if 24 hours is the best one. Some of those things.
Thank you, Kamal. Anyone else? Dr. Pungpan, do you want to share your thoughts on the potential for district cooling in Thailand? And maybe you can also share your thoughts how district cooling can play a role in terms of meeting energy efficiency targets in Thailand. And
yeah, thank you, Peter. I think I agree with Kamal that the priority for the district cooling target area would be the mixed use. The other target would be the smart city area like EEC in Thailand, where we are, as Mikhail mentions, that and also that is part of the smart city criteria, as I mentioned earlier. That would be the opportunities. In terms of the government side, we are supporting any kind of energy efficiency, either the financial support or any other kind of support if we are also as a government, we are also learning, because district cooling is quite new also in Thailand, that we are also learning at, and whether we can set some kind of standard for those who develop the district cooling in Thailand.
Thank you, Dr. Pompan. Yeah, Michael, you already shared your thoughts about some potential areas there, but I also, if you would like to share, if you have some international district cooling experience that could be directly used in Thailand, is in terms, if do you have any projects that you feel that would be very suitable for, let's say, the East Economic Corridor that you mentioned?
But I think there are great examples, and what we have experienced here in the past years are that it has been lack of data to be shared and lack of information and so on. I would say, I mean, APUEA has done a great job, you, Peter, and your colleagues, to actually gather these kind of data and good experiences. So even from, sorry, there are great experiences, some specific projects. I mean, but you know, there are great examples and definitely, I mean, something that we could share depending on the needs, because what we should remember is that each project is unique. It is unique in its nature. So depending on how the project looked like, what type it is, what kind of off-takers there are, there will be different projects that are relevant. And I would say, I mean, I'm sure that Forestias will be a great example also for further development in Thailand. I will.
Okay, I think we lost Michael here. Michael, are you there? Otherwise, I think we'll continue with another question. Yeah, we lost you there, Michael.
Sorry for that. Yeah, I just said that Forestias, I think, would be a great example. I was very happy to see the chilled water storage instead of an ice storage there. It's a good thing.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So another question we got here is there a limit on how small a district cooling system can be? I mean, what is the smallest size of a district cooling system, basically? Maybe Kamal, would you like to answer that?
In terms of the commercial wise, we might looking for something that bigger than 5,000 refrigeration ton, but smaller than that still have potential, but based on the out of usage of each development. I would say that right now, from 2,000 ton, we might consider as the what we call maybe the mini DCF, you know, and from 2,000 to 5,000, it can be the medium size. And if we can look for the more commercial wide size, maybe 5,000 up or some kind of those things. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And another question here is, I want to continue with you, Kamal. So how about retrofitting buildings with district cooling in Thailand? Is there a potential for that?
It depends on what would be the existing system that they have, you know, if they're quite individual, and also the premise or environment or the surrounding of the existing condition of the building. Because to have the DCS, they might need to have the distributed pie, that would be the challenging one. If the building is not allowed to install anything more, or the system is in the existing one is split tie and no room or space for installed distributed pie, that could be very challenging. Yeah.
Right. Michael, do you have any knowledge on this question as well, retrofitting projects for district cooling from your international experience?
Yeah, I mean, there has been some where you are, like I mentioned, not only, I mean, brownfield projects where you are connecting existing buildings. I mean, where I come from, my background from the beginning, I was responsible for the design and operation optimization of Stockholm district heating and cooling system. And there, that is to some extent, I mean, to connect existing buildings that had their own centralized system and so on. So there are definitely those examples as well.
Okay, thank you, Michael. A question to Dr. Pompan. So today, the district cooling market in Thailand is driven by the private sector. So do you think that the Thai government or from the Ministry of Energy will develop specific policies targeted for district cooling projects?
Yeah, thank you. If I think if there is the project being developed and development for many of them, I think one of the things that the government would like to do is some kind of criteria or standard. That's the first thing, and then the second thing is some kind of incentive, because if they can perform the energy efficiency, I mean, can improve the energy efficiency of the cooling system, that we could support this kind of project one way or another. So I think that would be the answers.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Pompan. So a question maybe to all of you, but Mr. Kamal here, what is the biggest obstacle when to introduce district cooling? Is it the investment cost?
I don't think so, because now the investment cost compared to the revenue or when we do the feasibility study, if the size and the types of the cooling loss is appropriated, I think it's quite feasible. Maybe there are a few things. Maybe one is the understanding of the user, because we got to also educate the user to understand this. And for some area, might also need to touch upon the regulations. Yeah, because some of the area it's still quite strict. Let's say if a city is itself the district cooling, it need to cover enough cooling load, and for somehow the cooling load itself in the same area, if we would like to develop into the city, it got to whereby for somehow we need to install the pipe in the public area to connect to another community, so that we can combine the group of road to be appropriate size. So to install the pipe through the public area to across the road, even though it's a short length, that could be some of the things that we cannot combine the community together to come up with the enough size of the load to serve it, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamal. I think we're running out of time, but I think we'll add one more question to this discussion here. We got a question on district cooling development in Vietnam, so it's directed to Michael. What do you think is the potential in Vietnam for district cooling?
I really think, like I said, the market will kick off now, starting to develop. I mean, we have already commitment from the central government and the municipalities. 3 cities are out first. I don't remember which 3 it is directly, but please just send me an email or something. I will send you the information. So 3 cities are out now with the cooling action plans, the urban cooling action plans, which are including district cooling developments. Then, I mean, some of the how to say, progressive developers from Singapore, for example, are developing the VSIP industrial developments, for example. I think there will be opportunities, obviously, in all kinds of facilities of the ones I mentioned before, where there is a certain cooling load and so on. There will not be, like Mr. Kamal said, there will not be in traditional residential areas, obviously, but in mixed use, in commercial areas, could be in high-end residentials that there are. But I think we will see a handful of projects being developed within a 2-year period. That would be my guess. And I know we know already that, I mean, some are looking into it already. So.
Thank you, Michael. So I think that has to be the last question, unfortunately. And but I thank you very much. I want to thank all 3 speakers for joining this great session today. And I think we can all can say that there's a potential for district cooling in Thailand and the ASEAN region. And make sure to follow. You're welcome to follow APA and the work we do in regards to promoting district cooling in the region. And of course, we hope to see you at the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week, and as well as the Global District Energy Climate Awards later on. With that, I want to hand over to you, Pran, for the final remarks.
Okay, so thank you very much for all the speakers. We heard so much about the benefits of the district cooling and also the potential in Thailand, especially they reduce the energy consumption, and also especially they help the environment by reduce the greenhouse gas. Okay, and we're happy to hear that from the government, the target of the energy efficiency plan from now until 2037. So, and we're also happy to hear that probably there is an incentive for the energy efficiency in this market. And also for Kun Kamon about the Forestier project, we really look forward to visit the Forestier projects when they finish the construction and they open for the Thai people. Okay, so yes. Okay, and thank you, Kun Michael, for calling all the way from China to talk about the international experience on this one. And lastly, thank you all the speakers once again and all the attendees who stay with us until now. We know we have so many questions like coming in, and due to the time limit, so we will not be able to answer it all, but I will send the questions to our speakers so they can have the each question and answer the question, and then we will post on the website of ASEW-Expo. So so many people have been asking about the PowerPoint presentations from our speakers, so we'll be upload for the presentation at the ASEW-Expo website. So you can visit us on that, and also the recording of the webinar will be shown on that website as well. So as I mentioned earlier, that this is the webinar is brought to you by the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week, which will be organized on 14 to 16 of October 2021 at Bitech Bangkok, Thailand. So the Asia Pacific Urban Energy Association, we also have the seminar about the efficient urban energy seminar in the exhibition as well. So any more information or any update about the topic and conference during the exhibitions will be there and at the ASE or the ASEAN Sustainable Energy website. Okay, so once again, I would like to invite everyone to join us at exhibitions. There's so many technologies and exhibitors who will be there to show that technologies. So at last, I would like to thank you everyone today once again for joining. So we hope you guys stay safe and take care everyone. So we will see each other once again. So thank you very much. Thank you to our speaker.
ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you. Bye-bye.